Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming to the Candidates Forum for the Great Neck Library. My name is Nancy Sherman. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Great Neck, and the vice president of the league is Marty Schlesinger, and the secretary is Beth Friedman, and the members at large are Susan Trebelli and Sybil Cohn, who is also the past president of the Great Neck League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters is a non-partisan organization. We never support or oppose any political party or candidate. Our mission is to educate the voters and to engage you fully in our democracy. We believe in civil discourse, in showing respect to everyone, and in listening to all sides of an issue. Our forums are about giving all candidates the opportunity to present their platform and to answer questions from voters in a civil manner, even when we have a hotly contested election. We are honored that the Great Neck Library has reached out to us to moderate this candidate forum. As it is league policy not to have a moderator from the same district as the vote is going to be in to avoid any conflict, we contacted the League of Women Voters of Port Washington, Manhasset, and requested that they provide a moderator to conduct this forum. Dr. Judy Esterquest, sitting to my left, of the League of Women Voters of Port Washington, Manhasset, will be moderating tonight. Judy is not eligible to vote in this election. This forum is also being recorded, and then it will be posted to our Facebook page, and it will also be available on the Port Washington YouTube channel after this event. We have received many questions in advance of this forum. You'll have the opportunity to ask additional questions on the index cards that are available, and time permitting, we'll get to those questions also. The moderator is the final arbiter of what questions will be asked. There will be no other recording of this forum. Thank you to all the candidates who have appeared this evening. There is one seat open on the Board of Trustees and 2 seats on the nominating committee. The candidates for the expiring board seat of Scott Sontag are the following people are running: Scott Sontag, Aliza Reicher.
Aliza Reicher.
Aliza Reicher, okay. And Sara, Rivka, Khodadadian. Chaim Magareft, who is not, there's also Chaim Magareft, who is not available to be here this evening. The candidate for the expiring nominating committee seat of Marietta D. Camillo is Daniel Pitt-Stoller, he's in the audience. And the candidate for expiring nominating committee seat of Mariana Wolgemuth is Joanna Stolov, and she's also in the audience. The league has a no empty chair policy, which means that if there is only one candidate running for each seat, he or she cannot participate in the forum. But they are present tonight, and I'm sure they'd love to speak to you after the forum. Dr. Judy Esterquest, a member of the Port Washington Manhasset League and a resident of Manhasset, as I indicated, will be moderating this forum, and I will now turn this over to Judy to get started. But before I turn it over to Judy, I just want to let you know that the election is on October 10th. I'm sorry, October 30th, I keep doing this, from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And we want everyone to come out and vote. And thank you.
Thank you. So, for over a century, the League of Women Voters has sought to make democracy work by holding events like this so that voters like you can hear the views and observe the behaviors of candidates on a range of issues important to all of you. That's why we ensure that all the candidates agree to the debate procedures, which I'm about to read to you, which are posted on the board, and which all of you have basically agreed to by coming through the portal. So I'm about to read them. It takes 3 minutes. Please bear with me. The moderator will be a member of the league from outside the district. That's me. Candidates' opening statements will be determined by drawing lots before in-person events. The same order will be for opening and closing statements. And we have put the candidates in the order in which, in the sequence in which they drew their numbers. So Ms. Rivka goes first, Mr. Sontag goes, Reicher goes first, Mr. Sontag goes second, and this is gonna be hard every time. I'm not gonna bow and do first names. Khodadadian is gonna go last. Each candidate will be allowed 1.5 minutes for the opening statement. Then they will be allowed, after they have all spoken, the moderator will open the meeting with questions from the audience. You can write them on cards and then turn them into the vetters. These will be vetted prior to being asked so that duplicative, personal, abusive, or biased questions can be discarded. The moderator is the arbiter of all questions, whether they're appropriate, repetitive, or abusive. Each candidate will be given 1.5 minutes, 90 seconds to answer each question. At the moderator's discretion, we may reduce it as long as it's the same for everyone. There will be no rebuttal. Questions may be addressed to a specific candidate or to candidates in general, although all candidates will be given an opportunity to answer a question addressed to a specific individual. The moderator will attempt to rotate the order of responses for each question. A league member will act as timekeeper. 1.5 minutes from the end of any given time period, the timekeeper will alert the speaker by a prearranged signal, looking like that. Everybody see it? When the time is up, the speaker will be allowed to finish their sentence, but they will see a stop sign. Repeatedly speaking past the deadline may result in a candidate losing time for a future question, or others getting additional time. Candidates will have 1.5 minutes for a closing statement. Since the purpose of the meeting is to determine the candidate's views, no substitute speaker will be allowed to appear should a candidate be unable to attend in person. No written or recorded statement may be provided in view of active participation by a candidate in real life. Using props, charts, or visuals, or displaying campaign literature is prohibited. In accordance with league policy, the league owns the contents of its forum. Audio or video recording by authorized members of the audience or the host will be permitted only if agreed by all candidates present. The library is doing the recording, and the candidates have agreed. The league maintains the right to record the forum and publish it on league-controlled electronic sites, in this case, the Great Neck Facebook, and the Port Washington Manhasset has a YouTube, LWV, PWM, YouTube. No partial transcript or recording may be published without written permission from the league. So, those are the rules. As moderator, I decide, so much power. The league believes the responsibility for maintaining good government belongs to you. You are the voters. You need to ensure this. So please be sure your cell phones are turned off and are silenced. Please do not block the doors or the camera. I am now silencing my phone. Your purpose is to hear from candidates, so let's focus on their voices, not yours. Please remain seated and silent during the Q&A unless you are writing or submitting questions. And you bring them up to the better if you want. As a moderator, I'll stop the debate if audience interrupts. Interruptions reduce the time for candidates to speak, and we're here to listen to them. To repeat, league policy permits only authorized recordings of these forums. Taking clips or segments is not authorized, and we will make sure they get up before the election. Any audience member who violates the agreed procedures or who disrupts the forum by ignoring these audience expectations after being warned may be asked to leave, and they may be arrested for trespassing. Just thought I'd say that. So now we are going to hear from the three candidates, and what we're going to start with is Aliza Reicher.
You got it.
Please start.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Aliza Reicher. I've lived in Great Neck for 5 years, and I have 2 young children. My family uses the library all the time. We attend programs for the kids. My husband uses the STEM lab to print stickers for my son's hockey helmet, and I regularly wander the stacks and use Libby for my next read. To me, the library is an oasis. It's magic. It's a place where someone can always help you find what you need. It's calm, it's quiet, it's organized, everything that my little type A heart loves. I want to join the library board as trustee to help safeguard what makes our library great. I'm here today because not only is Great Neck Library important, but all public libraries are important. Libraries are on the forefront of engaging the community, fostering collaboration, and guarding against censorship. Those are my values. We owe it to our complete, diverse community to have a library filled with complete and diverse resources and programs. Resources should reflect the experiences of all the individuals around us and not just the people who look like me. Programs should be geared towards all different community members and not just to the people with my shared experiences. This is why I am categorically against banning books or programs that the library director and librarians have deemed appropriate. Thank you for coming this evening, and I hope I can answer any questions you have about me or where I stand on any issues.
I forgot to mention that opening and closings, please applaud for everybody. After the third opening, radio silence. Okay, Mr. Sontag.
The Great Gatsby is just one of the many books I read as a child here. My name is Scott Sontag, and I was born in Great Neck, so I have fond memories in this very room. I really do care about our library, and this is my prime motivation for running for re-election. I have 4 children, and we constantly use the library, and I spent many hours in the STEM lab. We have had many great accomplishments while I served on this board, including program expansions, technology changes, capital project completions. My primary goal, if re-elected, will be to make us the #1 library in New York State. At the moment, we've won the award as Best Children's Library in Nassau 2 years running, and we're a 2-star library according to Library Journal. As part of my priority to make the library the #1 library in New York State, we will need to retain our staff and show appreciation, continue to improve our use of technology, expand the educational offerings, reach out to the underprivileged part of our community. We need to strive to bring people books when they can't come to our library, as some of us don't even have cars. There are swaths of Great Neck that would benefit and be grateful. An entire community here is underprivileged, and that's one thing that I've been focused on. The last part of my goal is to make the library the focal point for our community. Ben Franklin believed this is the key goal of a library. Many nonprofits already use the library, including the Boy Scouts, SEPTA, the GNCA, SHI, and the UPTC. Additionally, the library provides levels and busing for our tweens. These services can be expanded, but we need the community to help. Our library, my time. Thank you.
And now Ms. Khodadadian.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you to the League for hosting this forum. I'm Sara, and this year I'm running for a seat on the board. 3 years ago, I can't hear me. Oh,
Can you up the mic?
I'm supposed to use this?
Can you make the mic louder?
You use it?
No, I just spoke loud.
Oh.
That mic comes out of the stand.
Oh, this is true.
I can take the mics out of the stand.
Yeah. You guys can share it.
And then there's another one that comes out.
Would you like to be out?
Thank you.
Can I start? Yep. So I'm Sara, and this year I'm running for a seat on the board. Should I use this? Oh, okay. 3 years ago, a bit into COVID, back when I was still a college student, I began attending board meetings back when they were on Zoom. Then some time went, and then they came back to in person at the branches. In time, I came to realize how lucky we are to have 4 really strong library branches with such dedicated and hardworking staff. But I think I've also become a little bit disenchanted with the state of the board. It's not normal to lose multiple department heads in such a short span of time. It's not normal for board members to instigate bogus lawsuits against fellow board members and waste thousands of dollars in the process. A few weeks ago at a board meeting, a sitting trustee shouted at the director because he was frustrated. That is not normal. If I make it to the board, my priorities would be 1, paying our staff members competitive salaries. Let's unfreeze the contracts and make make sure we're doing our part to retain our amazing staff. 2 would be fiscal responsibility. I think we all get that. And 3, listening to the community is something I will prioritize. I'd like to see more people at meetings and walk away feeling heard. We have an amazing library. We can only get better.
Thank you all. So the first question for the draw goes to Mr. Sontag. What career or other board accomplishments would you bring as a library trustee? Tell us what skills and experiences you have.
So I work in technology, and one of my focal points is always to improve the technology at the library. The technology here has changed a lot since I've joined the board. We've enhanced the STEM lab, which I go a lot, and I talk to the STEM lab people as a patron, so I understand what they're dealing with. A lot of programs have gone on, including 3D printing, 3D modeling, programming courses. These are some of the things that I pushed as a trustee. I think that the technology aspect is one of the prime movers here. We have one of the best STEM labs, if not the best one in Nassau County, even in all of Long Island. And other libraries want to come here and visit with us. So I think the technology aspect and the way we can educate our children on it is surely an important aspect to everything that I can bring. Thank you.
Okay, second is Ms. Khodadadian.
Okay, so 1, I've lived in this community for over 2 decades, so I would say I know the community a little bit well. I would describe myself as an enthusiastic patron of the library. You can find me here several times a week. In terms of work experience, so as I mentioned before, I'm a recent college graduate. During college, I worked at the Village of Great Neck for some time, and after graduation, I worked for an assemblywoman in Queens doing constituent casework. The main skill that served me in both of those jobs was communication, learning how to listen and how to best help the person on the phone or the person in front of me at the office. That was a big part of the job. I think interacting with community members is a skill that will translate to serving on this board. Community engagement is something I hope to prioritize.
Thank you. Ms. Reicher.
I don't know if I need the,
Let her know if you can't hear her.
is this better? Okay, thank you. I'm a lawyer. I'm a bankruptcy lawyer, and part of what I've done professionally is I've helped rehab financially distraught companies back to functionality. I think that's a pair of, that's information and wisdom that I think I could really bring to this board, especially with what's been happening with the finances over the last few years in terms of spending on the lawsuits. I think that we're in a place where we need to focus on financial responsibility, and I think that that is something that I've done professionally for a long time. Right now I work for Practical Law, which is, I write about bankruptcy law, so I have a theme in my life, but I love to write, I love to edit. I think that really has helped me be a great communicator. I'm able to reach people in an easy and simplified manner. I think that there's been a lot of tension between what's happening at the library and what constituents are seeing, and I think I would be able to be a good voice piece for telling the community what's happening here and how we can improve, and listening to what the community wants and translating that to the board.
Okay, next, Ms. Khodadadian.
Did I not ask you?
Oh, no, wait a second, no, I haven't heard the question. So you're the third one, so now, question number 2. A program was developed to landscape Maine. If you become a trustee, what steps will you take to make sure that happens? And the first person up is Ms. Khodadadian.
Can you repeat the question?
Khodadadian.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Okay, a program was developed to landscape Maine Library.
Uh-huh.
If you become a trustee, what steps will you take to make sure that happens?
Sure. So, 1, I think the board should take community input into consideration. Once a project has been determined, been decided on, we should make an effort to be fiscally responsible. At the same time, our library is worth investing in, so I would say we should work with the appropriate professionals to find the best solution and the best path to go forward.
Okay. Ms. Reicher.
I think there's a lot of landscape available, and I think that we should focus on sustainable landscaping, and I think that we should be taking bids from contractors who can provide that. so that there's less maintenance and upkeep, there's less water use, and that in the long term it saves the library money on the landscaping. I have had comments about people frustrated with the lack of landscaping currently, so it should definitely be a priority.
Okay.
So, again, being a board member, I sort of have a leg up on my opponents here.
Please use the microphone.
Oh, sorry. Okay, being a board member, I have a leg up on my opponents, but again, as a board member, I suggested an Explorium. The previous suggestion for landscaping was multi-million dollars, and previous boards had not decided to take part in that. As I suggested for an Explorium, I had pushed other members of the library to find out details about this. Other libraries in Suffolk have Exploriums, and they're low-cost alternatives. They're science and creative play areas for kids. This is something that I'm hoping we will move forward with once the other renovation projects are done. Thank you.
Okay. The next question is about branches. Parkville is at the southern end of the district. What are your feelings concerning the branches, specifically Parkville? Do you have any plans? First person up is Ms. Reicher.
I know that the Parkville branch gets used a lot by the Parkville School, and I think that enhancing programming, after-school programming for those pre-K and kindergarten students would be really helpful for the community. I also think there needs to be a diverse offering, because there's a diverse number of constituents who live in that area and they're farther away from these branches. So I think we should endeavor to be as robust at that branch as we are at any other branch. Holds programming there for everybody from pre-Kers to seniors. We should endeavor to have a full collection and make sure that we can serve the needs of all of the residents there.
Okay.
Sure.
That's the advantage of having the table in the.
Yeah, this is great. So I just want to make it clear, we do have a diverse offering of programs at Parkville. This is one of the things which we've been doing over the last 2 years there. There are adult, children's, and tween programs there now. They even have a STEM lab of their own over there. The Parkville librarian, Kat, who's the head librarian over there, goes to a lot of the Parkville school PTO events. She was at an event this year, which was the end of year picnic. Adam, who's in our audience, has been to a number of those events. They do have a very robust book collection also there, and we will be enhancing that, but still, a lot of the things that people are suggesting and I'm hearing about here are things that we've done, so I hope the community does realize that. And the staff here, I appreciate them, and we've done a lot for them. They do have new contracts already. Those were already negotiated, and we are aware of the pay part of this, but again, we appreciate the staff, and the staff at Parkville has done a fantastic job for everyone. Thank you.
Ms. Khodadadian.
I'm sorry.
So I think you guys covered it all. Parkville is not my home branch to Maine is, but I understand that for people who live on that side of town, Parkville is just as important as Maine might be to me. So I agree with everything you guys said.
Good. So the next question is, the library has a $10 million annual budget. What are the fiscal responsibilities of a trustee to the taxpayers? First person up is Mr. Sontag.
So the library has a fiscal responsibility to the community, and as a result, we haven't really had any budget increases recently. The only one that occurred this year was due to the fact the school also had an increase, and we minimized that budget increase. In terms of an actual budget process, we go through a very long and laborious process each year, which goes through a number of different budget workshops. We try to maintain the budget where it is because we realize the community, while it may want further programming here and it may want better offerings, we also have to realize that people may not be for tax increases, so we try to maintain that stability for them. Again, the schools have had increases and inflation occurs, so we've had a lot of cost increases. But we do work with the staff here, and we work on the budget very diligently. So it's an important fact to me that we've done this, and we've been very careful with the way we've been spending. Obviously, people can point out a number of different items that they would not before. We've had renovation costs, we've had increases in those, but these have been experienced elsewhere. We've also seen the idea of lawsuits, which has been brought up. But a lot of libraries in this day and age, if you were to do research, are undergoing the same community outlook we've been seeing, where every public institution endures these things. Thank you.
Okay,
So can you repeat the question, please?
sure. The library has a $10 million annual budget. What are the fiscal responsibilities of a trustee to the taxpayers?
Sure. So my understanding is that the board works hand in hand with financial professionals to set out determine the details of the budget. There's a Mr. Kashkin, the business manager. I think it's important for community members to come to the budget meetings. It's usually around March. If you have a particular suggestion, I think you should come to a meeting, speak up, ask questions. When I worked at the Village of Great Neck, there was this one lady who'd come to the budget meetings, and during open time, she'd go line by line and be like, why did we increase this 2 times? Why did we decrease this? And she asked really good, detailed questions. So if anyone has a particular question about the budget or something in there is not clear to you, come to a meeting, ask questions.
Okay,
I know that it's been said that the budget was kept flat, but I did review the budget. I reviewed the budget pretty carefully, and I saw almost a 4% increase, which I know seems small, but when you're dealing with $10 million and people who don't want to pay increased taxes during an inflationary period, that's not insubstantial. I think it's important to start looking at our vendors. I think it's important to start looking at our services and see if there are ways that we can make cuts. I'm not saying that it's possible, but there are contracts that can be renegotiated. I keep going back to like $10,000 for snow clearing. I feel like there's maybe a way to cut that. I don't know, but there are options here for people to aggressively look at the budget and see where cuts can be made. I do think that it's the fiscal responsibility of the board to manage those costs and to keep them down as much as possible and direct those funds to resources for the library users.
okay, good. So the next question is about book choices. Librarians around the country are under attack for the content of the books they place on their shelves. People in our town have come into our library and questioned our librarians about their book choices. 2 questions. 1, what would you do to support the librarians given the current political climate in our country and in our town? And 2, do you believe that any group of members of the library district should have the right to override the librarians who curate the library books professionally? And that will be yes.
So the first one about supporting our librarians, yes, 100%. The second question of, do you think people in the community should be able to override the decisions of professional qualified staff working at a library? No. So the board can see to the hiring of qualified professionals, and then once they're hired, it's their job and their job only to place books in the right places. That's how it should be. I think this is part of a larger topic that you were mentioning, that people seem to think that since some books offend them, we should take it off the shelves for everyone. I never fully understood that concept. I'm a vegetarian, been one since I was 12. When I go to Stop and Shop, I don't expect the workers there to remove the fish, meat, and chicken departments on my account. That would be absurd. I buy the foods I'd like to buy, and I ignore everything else. I feel the same way about the library. If you come across a book that offends you, that's totally fine. No one will ever force you to get a certain book. So I never fully understood that viewpoint.
Okay, good. You're next.
As part of the bylaws, it's part of the board's job to defend against censorship along with the library staff, and I think that that's really important. You have to be an ally against censorship, which I am in the strongest possible terms. I'm against removing anything that the librarians have deemed appropriate for the library. I also think that no one group should be able to decide what should or shouldn't be in the library. That's why we have qualified professionals to do that job. I don't really have much more to say about that.
Okay.
So I imagine that if anyone were to look at some of the articles out there and do research in other libraries, they'd see how hard it is to ban books. And again, book banning here is not going to happen, but the ALA guidelines that our librarians follow are well defended. We as a board are not supposed to make those choices for books. It's up to the staff here. But if you look at other libraries around the country, states have been changing laws. They did it on Long Island. There's truly a fight here. And I would like people here to look for these articles and read them. It is a serious issue in other states. If you go to Texas and you go to various states, you'll find where they've managed to change the laws and they've tried to ban books. They've tried to remove them, and fortunately or unfortunately, a lot of these things have gotten reversed, but we have to be clear and sure that we don't let that happen here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is children's programming that gets filled quickly. Do you have any plans to expand children's programming, that, especially the ones that get filled too quickly, so that every child gets a better chance to participate? And our first person is Aisha.
So I've been one of those moms who's sat on my computer at 9 a.m. and like by 9:05, my kid is closed out of the program that I want them to be in. So I get that. The programs fill up fast, and there are a lot of people who want to be in these programs. They're free, they're part of what we pay for in our taxes, and they're excellent. I do think there should be some seats that are reserved as like a lottery, so more people don't have to be at their computers at 9 a.m. Not everybody can be there, not everybody can do that. I do think there has to be some better way. Maybe all of it is a lottery system. I do think that there are probably better booking systems available, and we can maybe try to implement that. That's part of what I would love to look into as technology. I think there are also a lot of people who don't show up to programming, and there should be a really robust waitlist system where people are notified, hey, 3 people didn't come last time, you were on the wait list, come this time. I think there has to be a better way to manage this, because I see so many empty chairs at some of these programs, and the kids are so happy when they go, and I would love to see them utilized even better.
Okay. Sunday.
Again, I welcome my opponents here, and I probably have a leg up. I go to a lot of programs with my kids. There is a robust waiting list, and you do get notified if you are going to be welcomed into that program if someone has canceled. So as long as people cancel, that waiting list will respond and welcome you in. Even if you go and you're on the wait list, most times they'll let you in. They even have extra seats just in case someone wants to go. I've had no trouble, even when I wasn't on the waiting list, getting to a program, because they always have those extra seats available to anyone who comes. The only programs which are tough to get into are some of the more special programs which are provided by some outside vendors. But for the most part, everyone is welcome to the programs. And the waiting list and the way that it works is very, very robust. Other libraries don't even let you reserve slots. We've had entire meetings as board about this system with the staff here, and we've taken the staff recommendations, and what we've seen is the system is working very well. And you can look at the numbers. Yes, people don't always get to reserve the slots they want, but if they go to the program, more than likely they'll get in. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
So if we could offer reruns of some of the more popular programs, that might help some of the people who don't get in. But this is a real issue. It was brought up at a meeting a while ago, and it was discussed, so it is a real issue that does impact people. People that see online that there's no spots left in a program will not just show up. They'll need to know that their child is reserved in the program. So it's a valid issue, and we should find a solution.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Please explain what you will do to limit the library's legal expenses, and if you believe there's no way for a trustee to do that, please explain. Last year, the library may have spent as much as $400,000 on legal expenses to defend an election lawsuit. And can you comment on defending versus not defending and the general sense of how lawsuits against libraries work? The first person is Mr. Sontag.
Wow. Okay, so 400K is the wrong number. I hope everyone understands that there was an article in the Great Neck Record which mentioned like 400 million, and that clearly was the wrong number. Yes, there are expenses due to lawsuits. I mentioned every library, if you look it up, is going through the same situation the Great Neck Library is going through. There are tons of lawsuits against public institutions. Again, I think the issue here is that there are different ways that this set of lawsuits is seen. There are renovation lawsuits, and that goes back to 2015. Previous boards did renovations here. Unfortunately, those weren't done so well. We've experienced the stairs outside. So those are things that this board wants to fix. Unfortunately, they cost a lot of money, and we've had to consider those things very carefully. I think one of the limitations when it comes to a lot of these projects and dealing with a lot of these issues is the ability of the staff, and specifically the director of the library, to assist us in guiding us to the right solution to all these things. Thank you.
So I would say there are some litigation expenses that are to be expected, and then there are some that come out of nowhere. For those that are baseless, those could be potentially solved by having communication-oriented board members.
Obviously, the financial drain due to the lawsuits has been on everybody's mind. The financial drain is primarily from 2 lawsuits, and it seems like the primary one was a pretty frivolous lawsuit that shouldn't have happened in the first place, didn't need to be brought, didn't need to be countered. Fortunately, those are resolved, right? We're moving on, and we're coming to next year's budget where we won't be spending those funds on frivolous litigation. But it's important that people not threaten that on the board and not attack each other on the board. I agree with Sara. I think it's very important that we have communication and consensual resolution oriented board members who are looking to find the best solution, to come together. It's a library. It doesn't have to be a heavily contested place. It shouldn't be. It should be a place where people are calm and cool and focused on providing resources to the community and not on fighting with each other.
Thank you. So the next question I wasn't going to ask, but apparently it says something. Who knew? So I'm going to give everybody 30 seconds or less to answer it. Please be good enough to explain why the yellow caution tape has been in front of the library for so long. Apparently that's actually a thing. So the first person is...
I'm so happy you asked that. I've been to meetings where I've asked that exact question. My understanding is that it all goes back to this litigation that was as a result of the renovations. It's not the library's fault. It's the contractor, I believe, that they used to not do a particularly wonderful job. So they're trying to fix it.
Okay, you're next. You can add to it or not.
Oh, yeah, I believe that the board has been looking for the cost of the fixing the stairs from the contractor who failed to do it in the first place correctly. That's why it's taken so long, and that's why there's still that caution tape.
Okay.
Okay. I think that it's already been sort of talked about. We do know the cost of fixing it, and it's very expensive. And it's also something that we want to do correct this time. The previous renovation, which I mentioned, that happened in 2015, that went to 2017, that cost more than $10 million, was responsible for this situation with the stairs, and we're meaning to correct that. But again, you don't want to make a mistake like that was done before. Thank you.
Good. So, this is, I hope, another quick one, but I'm going to give you 90 seconds. Just please don't take it. On Instagram, one candidate shared a desire to increase Sunday hours. What would have to be reduced to make Sunday hours, to increase Sunday hours? And the first person is...
Well, I don't think I was that person, so I'm not really sure what would have to be reduced, but I mean, anything that increases time at the library is going to increase costs. We're going to have staff here. We're going to have utilities. I don't really have a good answer for that, unfortunately, because that's not something I had really thought about at the moment. So I'm going to pass on that.
Okay. So I think we've added Sunday hours, and we'd like to add more. We've also talked about adding holidays and other ways of doing it. Again, the idea is the staff, they're entitled to days off. We have to realize that. It's not really about the cost of the hours. It's more about the idea that the staff has to be available. We do have limitations to our staff at the moment. Again, I think I mentioned we do have new staffing contracts where we've improved the wages that the staff gets. Unfortunately, it's still hard to hire new staff and train them and bring them on. And there are requirements for the facility when you want to keep it open during those hours. So I believe the community, if they asked for something like this, we would work, the library, the director, the staff would work to find a way if there's a need. But I've been here on Sundays. I've been to most of the branches when they're open on Sundays. And I would say that it's a pretty good compromise at the moment. I don't think we've seen a lot of people pushing for more hours or coming here saying, I don't have enough of the library. If that's the case, I'd be the first person to push for more things here. Thank you.
So the fact that we have any hours on Sundays during the school year is wonderful. There are many libraries that don't, so I appreciate that we do have during the school year those hours 1 to 5. What was the question again?
So there's a desire to increase, on Instagram, a candidate shared a desire to increase Sunday hours. What would have to be reduced to make that possible?
So I would talk to the director and see if that's a possibility.
Okay. Next question. There's been a trend around the country and in our town to target and censor library books by LGBTQ authors or about such issues. When this happens, it feels like an attack on community members and their families. Please offer specific ideas for protecting our community and bringing it together around these issues. Now, the first person is Mr. Sontag.
Sure. So I think that our library has done a lot to bring the community together around these issues. I think that if you were to speak with our director, our staff, they are choosing the books without censoring things. They're also putting them in sections which listens to our community. Our community seems to have a view on these books, and there seems to be a deep split in our community these days. But I think that in terms of defending our right to have those books and the right of the community, that's one thing that censorship is not going to happen here. It's really important, though, that we defend the right of the library to have the books that it needs. Thank you.
Okay. Khodadadian.
So, like I said before, if people have particular sensitivities towards books, that's on you. The burden of parenting falls on a parent. You don't have, you can watch what your kid is checking out if you don't like particular books. But I will say that all people, especially young people, deserve to see themselves or the issues they're struggling with represented in the books they're reading, and to suggest taking away a book because it offends you would be really, really wrong.
Okay.
I think that the Great Neck Library does stand by the LGBTQ community by keeping these books in and not making it subject to debate. It isn't subject to debate. We stand with the community, and the board members should stand with the librarians against any sort of censorship of these books. They deserve to be in the library. They deserve to be in the young adult section. They deserve to be available to those who need them and want to see themselves or explore their lives in ways that might make you uncomfortable. And if that makes people uncomfortable, that's just too bad. Then you shouldn't read those books. So I certainly stand with that community.
Okay. Next question. Do you think that the programs that are currently offered by the library are sufficiently balanced between STEM and the arts? If not, what would you change? And would you change it around generation? First person is Ms. Khodadadian.
I have no issues with the balance currently. That's not something that has stuck out to me, like an imbalance.
Okay. Yeah.
I do think that there are robust offerings. I think that there could be some more innovative STEM programming for younger kids. I think they're like desperate to get their hands on that, 3D printer, and they're desperate to do some of that more technologically oriented stuff. I know it's harder with the young kids. I also think that there's a lack of appropriate programming for seniors. I'm sure there are some seniors who would also love to get their hands on that 3D printer and figure out how to use it. And I would love for there to be more technology offerings for seniors. I think that there's a lot of programming in the arts, and maybe we can shift that balance a bit if that's what people want.
I guess it's my job to do this again, but we do have plenty of senior programming. We've actually had seniors come in and thank us a lot. They go to the STEM lab staff. There are a number of almost tech support programs for seniors going on. How to even use their phones, how to use a computer, how to use the 3D printer. These are happening all the time, so I hope everyone in the audience also comes to do this. There's 3D printing programs. There's programs for young kids, trust me. My son, at 7, was taking Python programming here. They offer all sorts of technology-related programs for the younger kids. But it's important to realize that one thing I've seen personally is I want more arts-based programs. I think that the STEM lab and some of the other programs have gotten a lot of focus. I think the shift has to be back onto some of the arts. I think some of the younger kids actually could use some more advanced painting programs, clay programs. I know the library provides animation, it provides drama, it provides all sorts of great things for the younger kids actually. And we've been just pushing that along. Another thing though is that we've also been providing SEPTA-based programming for special needs. This is another thing which we'll be pushing into if I'm reelected. Thank you.
Okay. So, Board of Trustee meeting notes have shown that trustee attendance is often less than the elected 7. So important issues have been voted on, up or down by 3-2. Will you pledge tonight to commit to attending all of the Board of Trustee meetings unless sick or traveling? First person is...
Hi, yeah, so I committed to, oh hi, there's my son. I committed to running for this with the full knowledge of what it entailed, and that attending the library trustee board meetings was really important. It was something that I discussed with my husband, who's also back there, and who, we didn't take this lightly. So I plan to be at every single one that I can unless I'm sick.
I go to every meeting. I voted on everything. Hopefully people realize that I vote on everything. So it's important to me to show that because as a trustee, it's a commitment, and it's true. But we all deserve a great library, and this is the way we get there. I think that certain people have talked about trustees fighting and trustees not getting along. I always sit there and I'm the one who gets along and makes sure that the other trustees get along. Some trustees like to get frustrated. They may shout at the director. I think that's wrong. I think you have to show civility in all meetings. That's what a meeting is about. When you're on a board of trustees, unfortunately, your opinion might be different from that group of trustees, but once you all make a decision, you have to support that decision. And that's the most important thing which comes from this commitment. Thank you.
So, so go ahead, yes.
I wouldn't run for the seat unless I knew I could commit, and barring illness, I do plan to make the meeting.
Okay. So, 2 more questions. This is next to last. New York has an open meetings law which allows the public to view all meetings of government and quasi-government entities, of which the library is one because it gets taxpayer money. The question is, When a member of the public attends meetings of the library board, they can only speak at the beginning or the after. Would you like to comment on this? And if you know whether the law can be changed for the library, please comment on that. First person is you, Mr. Sontag.
Sure. Well, I think in the past, the board went and did its own thing. Robert's Rules of Order, and again, I learned this as a board member, give you the ability to say these are the open times when the community should be able to speak. Unfortunately, what happens, especially in this day and age, is when you let the meeting be open and let the public comment on each and every issue, A, your meetings go on forever, and B, the public doesn't always behave properly. I think that one thing that could be done is if the public would be willing to sort of say they will behave properly, maybe there's some space to provide a little more comment time, but unfortunately certain people in the public disrupt those meetings. Whether or not it's something that we want and we don't is something that's entirely up to the community, but for me, when I've been at some of these meetings and I've heard the public shouting on each and every issue or fighting between community members, that's a problem to me. It doesn't make anyone look good. Again, it's hard for me to comment when I've seen other trustees shouting at library staff. That's frustrating to me too. So it's important to me that, you know, if we want to make the community more a part of this, if they can make that something the staff sees, then maybe we'd be able to make it happen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next.
So one, in parentheses, I think we should start live streaming meetings here on YouTube because a lot of people can't make it Tuesday nights at 7 or 8 to comment at the end. So you mentioned that in the beginning of the meeting, there's a 3-minute time slot for a person to go up and comment on the actual agenda. And there's 3 minutes at the end of the whole meeting where you could basically ask your more open-ended questions that are not necessarily pertaining to what's on the agenda. In the past, no one's really told me off when I switched that and kind of asked my more general questions in the beginning. So I think the board has been pretty receptive to my questions.
I think we should definitely find a way for people to electronically attend. I think we've learned that Zoom and live streaming are great options for public involvement. I also think that there should be the ability to submit questions beforehand. Maybe there is, I don't know of it. Much like many of the things that are being said tonight, I have seen things for myself, and then there's apparently the knowledge that the trustees have, and I feel like maybe sometimes that's a closely held secret, and I think that maybe we need to be let in on some of these secrets for us to participate better. So, I'd love that opportunity.
Okay, and the last question. What have you personally done, not necessarily as part of the library, to promote inclusiveness and belonging and to ensure that everyone in our community finds value in our library? Books they need, programs they will enjoy and learn from, information from a credible source, and how will you make sure that people who are not currently using the library learn how valuable it is? And you're up first. Yes.
Okay. So I think it's very important that the Great Neck Library tries to build bridges with all members of our diverse communities. One way to do that is by continuing to have a presence at community events like street fairs, Memorial Day parades. Other ways would include partnering with community organizations like SHI and the Great Neck Chinese Association. Those are all great ways to bridge the gap.
Better social media. We have great stuff going on, but it can be better. We can have more opportunities to bring in the community that way. I think that people want to know what's going on here and people want to participate. They just don't know. And they also aren't at the most convenient times, especially for working parents. So let's make things easy for them. Let's make multiple notices for where we can find times and where the programming is. I know this is a small side note, but I'm noticing that there isn't great publicity for the fact that not everybody will be voting at the main branch for the library election this year. And so I felt like it's my responsibility to publicize that. I've put that on my Instagram and Facebook page. These are things that help reach users, and I think it's really important for the library to continue to develop that social media presence.
Okay, so it's not a secret. There are no secrets held by the trustees. If you come to the meetings, everything's there. Just unfortunately, not a lot of people like to attend the meetings, so they come to one meeting, so that's fine. Everyone does not vote at the main branch, actually. They've always voted at other places. This year it's just because the renovations are happening at Parkville, things have had to change. Okay, back to the original question. My goal is always to include the low-income sector of our community and include the SEPTA people in the community. I've worked a lot with the SEPTA organization, and I've been pushing for a lot of outreach to the lower income part of our community to bring them to the library. I've already worked a lot to bring the Great Neck Parks, the Great Neck Public Schools, the Parkville PTO into the library. And during COVID, I supported a huge number of programs for the ERP community, which was the remote elementary students, which we have a person here who actually helped make that happen. Hundreds, if not thousands of programs were given to these kids during COVID who couldn't go to school. I want to recognize Adam, who's sitting in the back. He represented these programs with the schools and spent hours and hours working on this. This was an outreach program. My son was remote during that time, and I pushed this through. I pushed this on to everyone, and Adam made it happen. So thank you, Adam.
Okay. Thank you. So you went first on that one, right? So now we're at the closings. Before we do the three closings, I want to repeat what was told to me, is that the election for library trustees is October 30th from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Apparently it's in 3 different sites, and you have to look at your zip code to know which site you're on, and it's out there someplace. I'm sure the circulation desk can tell you. I'd also like to remind you that the general election date is November 7th. Early voting begins on October 28th and runs through the Sunday before Election Day. And there will be forums on the county legislator and assembly, receiver of taxes, and supervisor positions on the LWV, that's League of Women Voters, of PWM YouTube. You write LWVOF PWM YouTube. It will come up, pick 2023 candidates, and you will see all the forms for this year. And now we will do the closing statements. You have 1.5 minutes each, and we do it in the same order.
We're so lucky to live in a place like Great Neck where people clamor to join the Board of Trustees for the local public library. I mean, how often does a library election have 4 potential candidates for 1 Board of Trustees opening? We're lucky to have robust funding for resources and programming, and we're lucky to have such involved constituents. It's important that the people who value the library, what the library provides, don't become complacent. The last few years have seen a major drain on the library's finances, and it's time to move forward with a cost savings mentality, saving the library funding for materials and programming for library users and not administrative issues and lawsuits. The country is poised to ban more books than ever, and we cannot let that happen. Access to information is the basis for lifelong learning and personal and professional growth. It's crucial that the elected trustee be an ally against censorship. Our community is becoming more and more diverse. Our library must be pushed to reflect that diversity and be encouraged to elevate its offerings to welcome all library users. I love the library. I love Great Neck. I considered myself an involved member of the community. I like to think I know what's going on. I've spent a lot of time researching the library. I've spent a lot of time working with people to help, win this election, and I hope that I get the opportunity to serve this community.
So I just want to point out, while we've been undergoing, obviously, some litigation, it's not been draining our finances. The library provides robust offerings to the community, and we've done a lot. My vision for our library is more than the programs, the technology, and the books. It's a place where we should find peace and harmony, like the famous John Lennon song, Imagine. We need to use the library to come together as a community rather than fend each other off like in the book Lord of the Flies. Do we want to be Ralph, Piggy, or Jack? I vote for Ralph. We can choose our own path, like in the famous poem by Robert Frost. We can choose the path that others have followed or the path not taken. It's up to us. Our library has undergone dramatic change over the last 20 years. Many directors have come and go, and we have endured a pandemic that at one point was unimaginable in recent history. We have prevailed, but that does not mean we have made it. Our library is the typical library today. Politics, book banning, staff harassment have affected the majority of libraries in America, but that does not mean we should continue to tolerate it at ours. We can be better together. The Empress and the English Doctor by Lucy Ward about Catherine the Great was the most recent book I read. It's a focus of science over superstition and women's rights. These are important issues in today's libraries, and we should focus on those things because I think these are the things that will bring our library together. Thank you.
At the 2022 reorganization meeting, then president of the board, President Yan, said something that I found interesting. I'm not sure if you guys are all there, so I'm going to repeat it. He said that before joining the board, if he was asked what it takes to be a good trustee, he would have answered that perhaps a lawyer, accountant, or a person with a technological background would be the best fit. Now, after 4 years, if you were asked the same question, his response would be completely different. To be a good trustee does not matter what your background is, because the library is run by professionals. To be a good trustee, you need to be a good listener and listen to the community, director, and staff. The most important job of a trustee is to make good and right decisions, which are sometimes tough and not always popular. So to his point, I may not be a lawyer or an accountant, but I can definitely commit to listening and trying my best to make good decisions for the library. I think it'd be great to have a new voice on the board, and I encourage everyone to vote. If you're not a fan of long lines, I highly recommend voting by proxy. There's still a few days left to request them. Thank you all for listening, and thank you again to the League for this opportunity.
I would like to say the League appreciates candidates who come and talk to people and are videotaped so that other people can watch them, and who answer questions so candidly and basically with good humor. And many of the answers, I think, were both inspiring and pragmatic, which is something that this community should value. And the fact that they are willing to serve a volunteer job that gets lots of slings and arrows. So we need to thank all three of these people for stepping up. Because you showed up on a random Monday to listen to 3 board candidates for library trustee, and you know how many people in your community said, you did your Monday doing what? So thank you for being engaged citizens and making this happen. The forum has now ended.
Before everyone leaves, I just want to let you know that we do have a Facebook page, the League of Women Voters of Great Neck, and you can find out about additional forums, including the forum for October 19th for the town of North Hempstead. In addition, if you would like any other information about the League of Great Neck, then you can contact us at our Gmail account, which is lwv.greatneck@gmail.com, and we would be more than happy to answer your questions. And if you would like to join as a member, we would be more than happy to have you.
The
Thank you.
League does fabulous things, and it's not for women only.